In this video article, we're going to look at the fifth and final of my favourite authors with book suggestions. In this article, I'm going to talk about an author called Chris Wooding. Now, Chris is maybe an author you've not heard of. The reason that I chose him, apart from the fact that he's a cool author and he's written some really good books, is there's a particular series of 4 books he's written which I think were influenced by my favourite TV series stroke film of all time. So let's get into that. Before we do, if you want to get an email with a time-stamped overview every time I release a new video, all you've got to do is head over to deliberate-practice.com, sign up for my email list. There's other content there, plus there will be over the upcoming weeks and months some thank you goodies for signing up and some email-only content or email subscribers only content. So do head over and do that. Let's have a quick overview of Chris Wooding. Chris is a British fantasy, science fiction and horror writer. He's written over 20 novels. He's been writing since the late 90s, I'd like to say. He started out with young adult novels, YA novels, and he did a serial anime, which was for kids as well. But in the last 20 years or so, he's graduated to writing novels for older audiences. He's also a computer games programmer, so he's not as prolific an author as he used to be. He's great at world building. His writing is very atmospheric. His characters tend to be morally ambiguous, and he creates, especially in the 4-book series I'm going to talk about, he creates very distinct characters who have their own wants, needs, goals, ways they go about things, and that also applies for the characters who are not always the lead characters. So you always understand what they're going to do or why they're doing something, but all the characters are very different. He also explores what we would call darker themes in his work. Corruption, evil, those kind of things, how power corrupts, those kind of themes. So his work is, especially his later adult work, is quite sophisticated. He has written some fantasy, which I've never read, weirdly enough. I think his first trilogy was in the early 2000s, and I wasn't reading much fantasy at that point. He started another trilogy of which he's written 2 books of, but I'm waiting until the 3rd one's written before I pick those up. But I'm going away in a few days, and I may pick up the first trilogy and stick that on my to-be-read pile on my Kindle. I featured him because he's not as well known as the other authors that we've looked at in this series, and so I can talk about one of his series in particular. So that series is called Tales of the Ketty J, and that's a screen grab of the cover for the Kindle. There's 4 books in the series. They're all about 500-600. I think one of them weighs in at about 800 pages. They're that kind of length, so they're chunky without being super long. You can get the combined Kindle edition, is around 1,800 pages, I think, and it's about £16, 16 GBP in the UK Amazon store. I forgot to look on the US Amazon store. If the currency exchange is similar, it'll be like $22 or $25, something like that. But you're getting 4 full novels for that. Here are the 4 full novels with the covers. You can see that the first 3 books, Retribution Falls, The Iron Jackal, and The Black Lung Captain, have all been rebranded in terms of the covers. And the 4th one has the original cover from when I bought the books. I have all of these I think I've got them in trade paperback, and the covers were really much more evocative of the kind of steampunk ethos that runs through these books. So I just wanted to show you that there were 4 novels. Now, the reason I chose this series is it really reminds me of Firefly and Serenity, Joss Whedon's TV serial that was sadly cancelled after only 13 or 14 episodes, but we did manage to get a film out of it called Serenity, and I'll talk about the similarities between Firefly Stroke Serenity and the Tales of the Ketty J in a moment. I just talked briefly about the Ketty J. It takes place in a steampunk fantasy world called Vardia. We follow Darian Frey, who is a roguish airship captain who commands a crew of misfits. And Frey has to take on smuggling jobs, heists, mercenary work to keep the airship operational, do the running repairs, and make sure the crew are paid. And while it started out episodic, the story evolved, and the crew and the ship became involved in much larger scale conflicts. Let's just talk about some similarities with Firefly. Both feature a charismatic but morally ambiguous crew of outcasts who take on dodgy stroke illegal jobs to survive, amongst sometimes taking on jobs that are kind of more this side of the legality line. The group of misfits become a found family, and that idea is central to both Firefly and the Tales of the Ketty J. Both have adventure, humour, and darker emotional moments contained within the stories. The Firefly is a space western with anti-heroes operating on the fringes of society, and the Ketty J is a sky western with anti-heroes operating on the fringes of society. More similarities, both have oppressive governments that they strive to avoid. The ships in both series almost become like a character to themselves, and I wonder if Wooding loved Firefly like I do, and then translated the space western feel of Firefly into a steampunk airship setting, and then added fantasy and darker gothic elements from some of his other work. I don't know the answer to that question, but when I picked up the first of the Ketty J books, and I'd read some of his, and I'm going to recommend one of them in a moment, some of his other works, as he was writing it was YA, but it was aimed more at slightly older audiences. And this was the first of his kind of adult books that I picked up, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were fabulous. I thought the steampunk setting was well detailed. The world building was great. If you want that kind of steampunk adventure, nuanced characters, try the first one of these out, and if you like it, get the rest. I think they're really good. The characters are really interesting. One of them is not even properly alive, and how that's explained and how that develops is really interesting. So I can't speak highly enough about these 4 books in particular. And the other book that I want to talk about of Chris's is called The Haunting of Elizabeth Cray. Now, this was pitched as a YA book, but it's aimed at probably it would be like 15 to 18 year olds rather than 10 to 15 year olds. It's a great book, even though it's notionally YA, so don't let that put you off. It's set in an alternate Victorian London, and there's ancient dark magic, an occult conspiracy. Elizabeth Cray, the character herself, is a girl who's been taken over by the soul of a dead serial killer, and the character who drives the story, who is kind of like, he goes out at night and kills the bad creatures that are infesting London. But it starts from quite humble origins and then develops into something that's much more darker and much bigger. And in many ways, if you watch the previous video in this series where I talked about epic dark fantasy, it's veering towards that, although the scale is a bit more contained. So either the Tales of the Ketty J series or The Haunting of Elizabeth Cray are all books that, if you're into those kind of style of books that they are, the Ketty J books are steampunk adventures, but they're quite dark, but they're also sophisticated and entertaining. And The Haunting of Elizabeth Cray is more like a kind of gothic horror book with young adults as the protagonists, but it's I've read it 2 or 3 times and enjoyed it every time. So check those out, and hopefully when I get round to reading Chris's fantasy stuff, I'll be able to comment more on that. I've never read it, so I can't tell you anything about it. The next episode will be another books to read video, but it's going to have a twist because we've done 5 videos on my favourite authors. The next episode is going to feature 5 books that aren't writing books, but that all writers should read, in my opinion. So look out for that one, because one or more of those books could give you a new perspective or a perspective shift that really helps with your learning to write, or with how you look at writing and how you go about doing it. And they're not, none of them are like writing craft books or anything like that. So there's a chance that while you may have heard of some of them, there's a chance that some of you watching won't have read any of them. So do check that one out and when it comes out. And if you've got any questions or queries on this, email me, paul@deliberate-practice.com. Don't forget to go there and sign up for the email address as well. And I've also been putting together a resource called The Writing Vault. The URL is on the screen in front of you. And this is for aspiring and or frustrated fiction writers. Go and check the page out, see what you think. If you've got questions on that, use the email address above it. Thank you for watching this video. I'll catch you in the next one. And hopefully one of the 5 books that I suggest to you, although I'm cheating, and one of the recommendations will have at least 3 books, will be things that change your perspective and give you a different approach and have a really beneficial effect on your writing and how you go about writing. So I'll catch you then. Thanks very much.